feeling and knowing the spirit of this, I wonder if you could give us an appropriate toast that would do it justice.
Well, thank you, Doctor. And I think the justice to be done this day was that we engaged yesterday here in this very same garden, during which I dedicated the garden. And if you would allow me to reiterate what I said then, it is just as useful today, and I hope as well in years to come. And that is simply that I, Thomas Jefferson, on the 27th day of January in the year, and I even hesitate again to pronounce it, 2012, remarkable, dedicate this garden in honor of all the founding fathers, and as well to all who will follow them in kind, that we may never forget the principles that brought forth the establishment of our great nation, and that this heritage garden is thereby, if you will, to serve in order to inspire all of those who visit, that we all might remember as well the hard-fought heritage of this great country, and to make certain indeed that that heritage will continue in all its different ways and implications. So therefore I raise this glass of Madeira wine like that we founding fathers drank in celebration of the signing of our Declaration of American Independence. And I invite you, if you will, to raise your glass and to toast our heritage garden, all it represents. Long may she live.
Here, here, here. There you go. Yeah. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Now, if these people have come a long way on dusty roads, and some of them are tired, but I'm sure they're anxious to hear some special words that you might want to share with them.
Well, yes, and some special words that I had not the opportunity to share with everyone yesterday, so I hope as I speak them again today, you might share them as well with the others who were here. And that is in recognition of what I said earlier about holding a glass of Madeira, while Dr. Ray and his lady hold a glass of elegant red wine. They have the advantage because they have the improvement. They have what I have ever considered to be in their hands, more than even Madeira, the necessity of life. You know, I've always said that our nation may be becoming far too dependent upon the poisonous liquors, well beyond medicinal purposes. And so therefore, as many address me about my opinion upon maintaining the health of our nation, that seems to be very much in the public conversation of late, I answer to them, well, the health of our nation is through viticulture. No nation is drunken where wine is readily available. Think about that a moment. Nor is one sober where wine is dear. It is, if you will, an elixir of life, a panacea for ailments, and conducive to good conversation. I have ever been in favor of it, and yet, of course, in my efforts to cultivate the foreign vines at Monticello, it ever resulted in a failure. Oh, our natural vines, they continue to thrive. The muscadine, the scuppernong grape in particular, the tokay, the fox grape, the Concord grape, all of them. But the foreign vines have never been able to root properly in our soil. I have no idea. They tell me that years later it will be discovered, not here in our nation, but rather overseas, and imagine in all nations it will be discovered in France as a result of our exportation of indigenous vines to be planted by the French and thereupon to introduce into their soil a little mite known as the phylloxera. Indigenous to our soil, never known throughout the kingdoms of Europe, and that will immediately decimate the entire viticulture of all of France. Can you imagine the decimation of that interest, that effort, that success of the French that has been passed on one generation after another through millennium? In order that the French could revitalize, resuscitate their viticulture, they had no recourse but to graft their vine upon our stock, now that was introduced. So I share with you something that we were able to seek in reconciliation, and that is the revitalization of their great artistry in viticulture, that we as well may continue to benefit by it, let alone themselves. So here we share today, indeed, this great delight of wine, which Dr. Franklin said is proof that God loves us. And I agree. And to be served this delicacy in these surroundings is the most sublime, in my opinion. It is just what would have been offered and proffered by Socrates, where, lest we forget, he first engaged his open and free inquiries in a garden. In a garden. And to recognize what Dr. Ray has succeeded in imitation of my retreat house, for it is the design of Poplar Forest, where I go to get away from the many who visit me. I refer to them oftentimes as curiosity seekers at Monticello. Writing that I have been besieged by 50 at a time, not one of whom I know, and must put them up for as long as they desire to stay, and to grant them hospitality of the household. So I seek a seclusion 3 days distant on horseback, outside of where Mr. Lynch conducts a ferry on the Upper James there in Bedford County. It is my inheritance. I received it from my father-in-law, Mr. John Wales, when he passed away in May of 1773. And when I rode out that following September to inspect it, I considered this as now perhaps the finest of all of my holdings, that I might cultivate, particularly a fine grade of tobacco there at Poplar Forest. There was but a cabin upon the rise. It is no mountain, little mountain, such as Monticello, which is 900 feet above sea level, but no, a small rise. And so there I decided, when I became president, that I need a retreat house, and that I will seek that as my retirement project. And Dr. Ray has discovered well what I intended. A retirement house in its architecture based upon the classic principles of architecture, principles that had been known by the ancient Romans and Greek. The design of an octagon, 8 sides. In recognition thereby, there is no dark corner. There is continuous light, in recognition that light and liberty go together. To recognize this must be the design, indeed, in the mind of the great architect of our universe, that beyond the 7 days it took him, there must be the 8th of the great honor that we afford him. Indeed, the 8th, that is the honor of a gentleman who recognizes he has lived a good life, particularly on behalf of others. And so in this architectural design, Doctor, I go the further to say you've succeeded beyond what I succeeded. And that is in seeking to paint the entrance hall of Monticello green on the floorboards, that it might represent the carpet of nature. Good heavens, you brought the entire out-of-doors indoors here in your design. All of nature itself, and with these fine boxwoods from the gardens of those that I have always known as my friends and my associates, and indeed our founding fathers. So I compliment you, and I would like to raise, indeed, my glass, if you will join me, in recognition, certainly none the less, of another founding father.